My few words this morning is to try to reflect with you on the incarnation as God's choice of a dwelling place. God refuses to be bound to a place, and God's chosen home is the human heart and in human flesh. The little town of Victoria, Kansas, boasts of a church so exquisite that the National Geographic dubbed some years ago the Cathedral of the Plains. The people who settled in Victoria before the turn of the 20th century began its construction as soon as they had settled with their families in their homes, like shacks really, in the place. Then start quarrying the local limestone for the walls of this big church they want to build. And according to the legend, it said that the horse that carried this heavy of stones all the time from the quarry to the construction, he did it so many times that there's no need of human intervention with him. Just they let him go, and he goes exactly to the construction of so many trips he made. Now, those immigrants in Kansas thought it only appropriate to build their God a first stone house before they laid the foundations of their own frame dwellings. In today's first reading, Israel's King David moves a little more slowly. Only after he has settled into his palace, built with fine Lebanon cedar, does it dawn on him that his people still gather before a tent to worship his God. Embarrassed, David calls Nathan, the prophet, and to present him with a splendid idea. By David's time, things are really going well for the descendants of the little band of slaves who fled Egypt under Moses. They have settled into the promised land and made their transition from the semi-nomadic life of herdsmen to settled life of agriculture. They have conquered their enemies under David's leadership, which are the Philistines, which for so long threatened their possessions of the land and has been completely defeated by David. They have become a nation. In those days, the northern and the southern states were fighting each other. Separate. David got them all together, and when they settled in the promised land, they divided it into tribal territories. Now, for the first time in their history, they are joined under one king as one people. They worshipped one God, the God who had led their ancestors out of Egypt. But their worship, even when the tribes gathered for special celebrations, did not center on a special place. It centered on a thing. That thing was the portable Ark of the Covenant, a casket containing the stone tablets of the law which Moses received from God on Mount Sinai. The Ark was God's seat, the place where he was present with his people. David had brought the Ark up to Jerusalem when he established the capital of the newly united kingdom, Jewish kingdom. It was for this possible shrine, the focus of God's presence, that he wished to build a house, a temple, but God had another idea. God plans a house for David, a dynasty of kings who will keep Israel's heart faithful to their God. God has always sought a dwelling place in the hearts of his people. He called them out of slavery in Egypt and courted them all the way across the desert. At Sinai, he made a solemn covenant with them, which their poets would liken to a marriage vow. I will be your God, and you will be my people. To the rest of the ancient world, by contrast, the gods loved places more than human hearts. The people in the lands of the gods loved very well to protect them, because the deities would not allow the destruction of their locality. Perhaps something of that pagan belief had infiltrated David's thought. Certainly it endures in the modern world, when nations still brazen their way into battle with the certainty that their land enjoys God's special protection. They will not be dominated by another country. But the God of Israel will not be tied to a place. He remained unfettered to any locality for 1,000 years until the event in today's gospel. God plans a permanent home. He sends a message to a young woman whose forthcoming marriage will place her in the house of David, asking her cooperation in his plan. The God who yearns to dwell in human hearts now seeks a dwelling in human flesh. This dwelling will not be confined to a physical locality, for humans are free to move. The flesh formed in Nazareth will come to birth in Bethlehem and be destroyed on a hill outside Jerusalem. The same flesh will rise to a new life and shatter the barriers of time and of space. Magnificence of this dwelling will surpass David's fine cedar, the beauty of hand-quarried limestone, even the fine marbles of world's great cathedrals. This dwelling is the same miraculous blend of blood and bone and flesh, of thought and emotion and imagination each of us inhabits. This dwelling appeals to human hearts as no building can. This dwelling will be that helpless creature whose cry demands immediate attention from the busiest people. I dwell in possibility, poet Emily Dickinson once wrote, I dwell in possibility, a fairer house than prose. When the God who created all things chose a home in his creation, he too selected possibility, the unplumbed potential of a new human life, a fairer house indeed than anything our limited imagination can conceive. He chooses a home again today, taking flesh in us and the Eucharist. Now, we ask questions ourselves how this applies to us. Is our heart open to God's dwelling in us? When we receive communion, do we pay enough attention to Jesus present in us? He's a special guest that he comes to us. When you invite somebody important in your house, you pay all attention to that person. You don't keep doing your work, think about what you are going, and ignore that person. It'd be very rude to do that. So when we receive communion, do think about Jesus present. Or we'll be thinking about what we are going to do after Mass or worries of the day and ignore him completely. Do spend enough time to make him welcome and stay with us. These are some of the questions that we have to ask ourselves each time we receive communion. So now, since you really surpass the Black Friday, the Cyber Saturday, The Super Saturday, the countdown, everything is gone now. Only 4 days for Christmas, so leave those things out now. Forget about them and concentrate what Christmas is all about. Every day, think about the crib there, see Mary and Joseph and the child Jesus, nothing there in the stable. And see what they have to go through, Imagine Mary and Joseph when the time comes to go for the census. Imagine yourself, especially women and children. You are ready to give a child, birth to a child, and your husband said, I have to go to Tampa to vote. What do you say? Forget, you go yourself. I have to stay home. I'm going to give birth. No, Mary accepted. And what a strange thing it was for her on a donkey there, ready to give birth, but she obeyed. Mm-hmm. That was a lesson to us. Mm-hmm. Many times find excuses, it's easy to make it easy, but Mary took it for granted. And imagine if we're in her situation, she knows that this child is from God. God is present. Could have said, hey, this is your son. Why don't you provide for him? No, she did nothing. What a belief, what a strong faith she had. Same Joseph too. Going there, nobody there, and you have to go as the scripture tells us, not even a room in an inn there. They went up in the cave. They accepted it. Then the rebel against God, hey, this is your son, do take care of him. No, they did their part in spite of all this inconvenience and test of faith. So these are the lessons you should be thinking about even from now to Christmas, Forget about the hustle and bustle of buying and giving big gifts and concentrate in the right place. Make Christmas a very holy and joyful one, not only for this Thursday, Christmas, but for the rest of our lives. Let us God to come and dwell in our house forever. And now with that I close and give you a very merry, holy and joyful Christmas, and possibly seeing you before that, but if not, enjoy it and make it a permanent Christmas, not one only for Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.